Whenever I livestream all the Nancy Drew games, people stop watching at game 26. I think it's because of the writing and dialogue. There is a noticeable drop in quality starting with this game. The worst was the Shattered Medallion and Labyrinth of Lies, both released in 2014. Looking back, you can see the problems with those games originated here. It's most obvious with Jamila, who seems incapable of talking like a normal person. The characters give overly long answers to simple questions. They use metaphors and half-statements a lot. Sometimes it comes across as clever, intriguing, or mysterious. More often, it comes across as confusing and annoying. I've seen people say it feels like the conversations in this game are out of order, or parts are missing, or two entirely different conversations were thrown together. It especially feels that way when the characters ignore what Nancy says and talk about something else. I think this game would be more popular if everything was the same, but they changed the dialogue so it sounds more natural. I was excited when this game first came out. It has a larger screen, and the HD graphics are so nice! Wish they had done the game in widescreen, though. Really, the graphics are the highlight of the series from here on out. It feels like they no longer have limitations when it comes to the graphics. Unlike the early games in the series, they can have as many characters as they want, and the characters can appear anywhere. The only major exception are the scenes of Abdullah yelling at people. Those occur off-screen to save on animation. The best example of improved character graphics is Nancy's boss, John. He's seen at the start and end of the game. He's a fully designed character, even though he's only in the game for 20 seconds, max. I'm impressed they were able to include him. If this had been Game 7, there is a 0% chance John would have appeared in person. Remember, Ghost Dogs of Moon Lake had to choose between having dogs or having a fourth character, because having both was not an option. So the graphics are awesome in this game. The setting and sense of exploration are also good. It feels like you're exploring a puzzle-filled pyramid, especially when you find hidden passageways. That works great for the Nancy Drew series. It's comparable to the puzzle-filled pathways of Blackmore Manor. I like the new interface. I like always having Nancy's items at the bottom of the screen. That's easier than having to constantly open and close the inventory. I like how you can always see the top 2 or 3 items on the task list. The new journal is basically the same as the old one. I would have used this as a chance to stop splitting the journal up into observations and suspects, but that's my only real complaint. The new interface is great. There was a failed attempt to release this game for tablets. I think they had touchscreens in mind when designing this new interface. Hindsight is 2020, but maybe things would have worked out better for Her Interactive in the long run if they had delayed this game until they were at the point where they could release it for computers and tablets at the same time. That was the reason given for why Midnight in Salem was delayed, although I'm not sure that's true because Midnight in Salem never got a tablet release. The introduction at Nancy's desk is now gone, replaced with a title screen. It's a picture of the inside of the tomb. It's fine, I guess. The gameplay modes were changed from Junior and Senior Detective to Amateur Sleuth and Master Sleuth. The game starts with a short scene. Black and white pictures of the desert are shown, while Nancy whispers the story of an expedition that disappeared 60 years ago. I don't like this opening, and I would have removed it. In general, I think the whole curse element to this game was badly done, because there aren't any details. All we hear is, there's a curse, and we should be scared because there's a curse. But nobody says what the curse is or what it does. I prefer the mummy curse from the Goosebumps books, which says anybody who enters the tomb will be hospitalized or killed by the mummy. That's specific and straightforward. The curse of Blackmore Manor was also done better than the curse in this game. I don't like the rest of the opening either. The game starts off on the wrong foot by throwing you into the story with no explanation. We see John is attacked during a sudden sandstorm. What should be a dramatic moment leaves no impact because players have no idea who John is or where Nancy is or what's happening. It'd be so much better if there was a case file or an introductory letter like in previous games. Next, Nancy wraps up a phone call with John. He says she should figure out who attacked him and read the notes in his bunk. Nancy responds with, "I'll see if I can prove whose tomb this is," which is not at all what John told her to do. But he doesn't contradict her. Honestly, exploring the tomb is all Nancy does in this game. She puts no effort into investigating who attacked John. Nancy starts in the main tent. In her bunk is a book on Egyptian queens, written by Professor Hotchkiss. Read it to get Hotchkiss's phone number. I like that Hotchkiss is in this game, but I do not think she's as funny or interesting as she was in previous games. The same goes for Bess. When Nancy Drew fans talk about Professor Hotchkiss, 98% of the time, they're talking about Game 4 or 17. When they do talk about Hotchkiss in this game, it's usually a complaint that Hotchkiss is well established as a scholar of French history. It makes no sense that she's now an expert Egyptologist. Queen Marie Antoinette and Queen Nefertari lived about 3,000 years apart on separate continents. Nancy's trunk has 3 books on hieroglyphics. I wish the game had combined them all into one book, because the 2 books in the inventory look too similar for me to instantly know which one's which. The same goes for the many different scraps of paper that Nancy collects. They all look the same. One book is used to translate short pieces of hieroglyphs, which are on the walls of the tomb, such as, "I speak that which I wish to his mummy, it becometh strong." Pretty much all the hieroglyph translations are pointless, uninteresting things like that, so I skip them. I would have left them out of the game entirely. Plus, it's inconsistent that Nancy can make these translations without trying, when there are at least 5 hieroglyph translation puzzles that she has to work for. The second hieroglyph book keeps a running list of all the hieroglyph translations. Again, I would have left it out of the game. I'd put all the important translations in Nancy's journal instead. That's where they should go. Like Professor Hotchkiss's book, Nancy can't take the third hieroglyph book out of her bunk area. I don't know why she takes 2 books and leaves 2 books. Maybe it's because they didn't want to cram Nancy's inventory full of books at the start of the game. If you look in Abdullah or John's bunk, Lily yells at you. I don't fully understand what Lily is doing in this game. She should be working on the excavation, but she spends all day on her bed doing nothing. I don't like talking to her because she mostly complains about everything, just like I'm doing in this review. Lily introduces herself as the new leader of the American team, but later we're told she's here because Abdullah's mentoring her, which makes her part of the Egyptian team. Using the word team here is a joke, because really, there are only 2 people. Lily's major contribution to the game is playing Senate with Nancy. It's kind of a fun game, but Lily's explanation of the rules is so long that it makes me want to do anything else but play Senate. At the end of the game, Nancy returns to Lily for part 2 of the Senate lecture. I wish they had worked that information into the first lecture. It would have been a time saver. After talking to Lily, you can look in John's area. He has a lighter in his trunk and some notes. The Antiquities tent is next door. It's my favorite location of the game because it feels like you do a lot here. You can pick up 8 different items, not including an Easter egg. The left bench has a flashlight, a map of the tomb, a book about art, and a bird tile. There's also a crumpled up pamphlet for Sunny June's alien group, Spied. This is the first mention of Spied, which is a big focus in Game 30. I liked Sunny June better when he was a slacker who made silly doodles. This pamphlet feels like something which should be added to Nancy's inventory, since it's a clue for a puzzle later on. I don't understand why Nancy takes some puzzle clues but leaves others where they are. It's kind of a pain to go all the way back to the tent area because Nancy left clues behind. The right bench has a pick, a brush, and a jigsaw puzzle. I like this puzzle! It's fun to make a blue cat amulet. The amulet's missing a piece, and it's labeled N13E2. This is a puzzle. You need to find the location on the map inside the binder here. I wonder why it's different from the map in Nancy's inventory. This map has a grid which labels every single part of the tomb. I have a feeling this is closer to real archaeology than the rest of the game, where random strangers enter a newly discovered tomb and touch everything. The cat amulet came from the end of the middle tunnel. Nancy uses the brush here to find the missing amulet piece. She uses the pick on the bird tile to pry it off the wall. That's a perfect example of why Nancy should not be allowed to wander the tomb unsupervised. It's a miracle she didn't break the mural. Both the middle tunnel and the left tunnel are boring to me because there's nothing to see or do in them, except at the very end. In contrast, the right tunnel has 4 puzzles. They should have moved some of those puzzles to the 2 empty tunnels, right? Every tunnel needs at least 1 puzzle. That's how I would have designed the game. The main room has Dr. Abdullah Bakum, one of the world's best archaeologists. Like Chief McGinnis in the previous game, I think he's just okay as a character, but his voice actor does such a great job, I bump him up from okay to good. Jamila says he talks like there's a big audience nearby hanging on his every word. That is an accurate description of Abdullah. He's so full of himself, he's always saying he's the best, even when no one asked. Abdullah scoffs at the fact that Nancy could translate hieroglyphs like him, because it's far too difficult. It's kind of funny because Nancy has that magic book which translates hieroglyphs for her. Maybe Abdullah should get one. The right tunnel has the scarab puzzle on the wall, and a hieroglyph puzzle next to the door. Solve it for a 69-word clue to the Sons of Horus puzzle. I like the cryptogram puzzles in this game better than the ones in Game 20. It isn't possible for this puzzle to exist in real life. The English language started about 2,000 years after this tomb would have been sealed. The third room in the right tunnel has the Queen's Tiles puzzle. Slide the bars left and right so each column only has 1 type of symbol. I think it's a good puzzle. Master Sleuth mode has 4 extra bars to move. In general, this game does a good job with the differences between the 2 gameplay modes. Solving this puzzle reveals a doorway. It's locked, but hilariously, the lock falls apart as soon as you touch it. That's one unlocking puzzle Nancy won't have to solve. The room is so dark, Nancy has to use her flashlight. In general, this tomb is amazingly well lit. You can see big lights in certain spots. It must cost a fortune to keep them on continuously, and it's just for Nancy's benefit because nobody else uses these tunnels. Lily shows up and asks, "What are you doing?" "Your job, Lily, that's what I'm doing." Lily looks at a coffin as Dylan, Abdullah, and Jamila casually stroll inside. How did all the characters know to show up at this exact moment? And how did they agree on what order to stand in? Because Abdullah would never agree to be second in line. The flashlight dies, Lily says it's the curse, and Abdullah orders everyone out of the room. You'd think that Abdullah and Lily would want to thoroughly explore this new room, but no, they ignore it and return to their normal spots. If you talk to them, they say things like, "Whose tomb do you think this is? Could it be the big one?" You're supposed to be the experts. Look and see for yourselves. Dylan Carter is in a chair outside. He's the most popular character of this game. People like the good-looking, playful guy with a cute accent. Who would have thought? He's a tour guide who's not allowed inside the tomb. I don't understand how Abdullah has authority over Dylan, but not Jamila. She should not have more clout than Abdullah. A bottle of lamp oil appears on the water truck. I don't know who brought it there. Use it on the lamp in the burial chamber for a puzzle, which is reused from Game 20. Rotate mirrors until light bounces off 12 mirrors and hits the spot on the right. I don't like this puzzle because you can't see where the mirrors are. You're forced to make too many wrong guesses to find the solution. I'm not sure where this puzzle takes place because the room itself has no mirrors at all. There are 4 Sons of Horus tokens in the jars in the corner. There's a hieroglyph puzzle in another corner. From here on out, every translation puzzle has a quick translate button. Convenient! When you look at the coffin, Nancy says the lid is too heavy to move. She'll need to make a lever using the spears in this room, and a board from Abdullah's area. Inside the coffin is another coffin, which is locked with a puzzle. The hieroglyph instructions say, "The procession of gods begins the reveal. Seek them out under the protection of the heavens." The instructions mean copy the second floor mural, but the puzzle would be way too easy if it said that directly. Jamila is in the middle tunnel. I like her character design, but I don't like her, because I can never understand what she's talking about. For example, when Nancy says, "Why are you here?" Jamila says, "I can't exactly be there, now can I? That would make no sense." That's what passes for normal conversation with Jamila. She talks so strangely that it actually took me a while to realize she believes aliens built the pyramids. When Nancy talks to Abdullah, he leaves mid-conversation to yell at Jamila. Jamila moves from the middle tunnel to the right tunnel. I don't understand why, but this makes a red scarab appear in the middle tunnel. It definitely wasn't there earlier. Did Jamila leave it for Nancy? Why? The scarab puzzle is in the right tunnel. You want to slide tiles around until they're in the correct spots. It's just like Bard Bounce in Secret of the Old Clock. It's a good puzzle. My only complaint is that I have mixed up the black and white tiles before. The tile with the black background does not go in the black spot. The scarab puzzle opens the Sons of Horus puzzle. You want to put the 4 tokens in the correct spots and rotate them according to the hieroglyph instructions. You can call Professor Hotchkiss for more information, but since you don't have to, I usually don't. When you rotate a token, it changes the height of a column in the main room. You want them to form a staircase so Nancy can jump across the tops of the columns to a hidden doorway. I love this scene. It looks so crazy dangerous. How does Abdullah not notice and yell at Nancy to stop? She doesn't tell anyone either. Abdullah and Lily both mention the columns moved on their own. Nancy doesn't tell them what really happened. The new tunnel has a mural and a page from the Lost Expedition. When Nancy exits, Abdullah yells at Lily. Lily tries to apologize, but he is so mad he orders her to return home when the next transport comes. It makes me mad that we never learn what Lily did. The characters proceed to ignore the fight like it didn't happen and doesn't matter. What was the point of including their fight in the game? When Nancy asks about the fight, Lily changes the topic and gives Nancy the amulet puzzle. That dialogue could have gone in any Lily conversation. There was no need to tie it directly to the fight. The amulet puzzle is optional, which is good, because I do not enjoy it. Some of the items are hard to identify. I mean, frog and hippo are easy enough. Scarab and trust mammal are both ovals that I can't tell apart. Both the cow and lion look like a trust mammal. Is that what the word trust means in this context? I'm not sure I can trust my vocabulary here. One amulet's missing. Nancy sees a hole in the side of the tent. When you examine the hole from the other side, there is a digging puzzle. Use the shovel from the main room of the tomb to dig holes in the dirt until you find a paper. It says the buyer wants to buy an additional amulet for 16,000 pounds. This indicates somebody stealing artifacts and selling them on the black market. It's a little silly that someone went through all the trouble of moving crates and cutting a hole in the tent so they could steal amulets without being seen, when it's so easy to just walk into the tent and take all the amulets directly. There's no one here to catch you stealing. Nancy's inventory has a bunch of ancient artifacts that she's stolen. Hopefully she gives them back at the end of the game. Back to the coffin. You want to move the tiles around so they match the second floor mural. I like this puzzle. You have to think 2 steps ahead to get the tiles in place. Inside the locked coffin is another locked coffin. The hieroglyphs say you have to enter the names of Nefertari's 7 children from oldest to youngest. The 4 boys go on top with the 3 girls on the bottom. You have to call Professor Hotchkiss to learn the correct names. There are lots of different clues about the hieroglyphs in this puzzle. John's notes, the paper from the second floor, the Queen's tiles, a paper from Dylan, and the books that Nancy doesn't remove from her bunk. Use all of them to figure out how to spell the names. It is a tough puzzle. I think most people look up the solution. In amateur sleuth mode, the pieces lock into place when a name is completed, and Nancy says something. Inside this coffin is a papyrus jigsaw puzzle with instructions for the snake puzzle. This one's okay, but not as much fun as the cat jigsaw puzzle. I would rather make a picture of a cute cat than a picture of made-up writing. To enter the cat tomb, you need 2 different pieces of paper. Dylan flat out gives you one of them. Start a conversation with him, and he gives it to you without prompting. He also offers to go see the world with you. Oh, Dylan, you flatterer. The other paper is in Jamila's bag. Nancy can get rid of Jamila whenever she wants by telling her about the coffin. Nancy, that's right next door. Pick a distraction that's farther away next time. You can also distract Abdullah so you can translate the hieroglyphs behind him. They say, this is the tomb of Nefertari. Whoa! I can't believe the tomb of the Lost Queen is in the tomb of the Lost Queen! Nancy should, tell someone. Jamila's bag has an Eye of Horus lock. The Relics book assigns a number to each part of the eye. You press those numbers in the order they appear on the spied pamphlet. I suppose this confirms Jamila was inside the antiquities tent, not that anyone mentions it. The trick to the puzzle is that the eye is reversed. Inside Jamila's bag is an alien book by Sunny June, a legitimate archaeology book, which Nancy finds suspicious, and the second paper. Nancy puts the 2 papers together for a word puzzle. You want to place letters on the board to form words that are at least 5 letters long. The words are all somewhat related to the game. For example, Egypt, Scarab, Mummy, and Natron are the words that appear on both gameplay modes. I think this was a good puzzle. Too bad they never brought it back for another game. It's followed by an anagram puzzle using the first letter of each word, followed by another puzzle where you arrange the 4 words in order. The solution is Blue Cat Opens Tomb. I really like how this is a multi-part puzzle, where all the parts fit together in a way that makes perfect sense. It's probably my favorite puzzle of the game. There is a blue cat outline at the end of the left tunnel. Use the brush on the door and place the cat amulet there. The door retracts, and Dylan shows up out of nowhere. Seriously, where did he come from and why? I thought he was banned from entering the tomb. Dylan enters the new room alone, and he's caught in a cave-in. There are 20 rocks in the doorway. The puzzle is to remove 6 rocks without causing any of them to fall. This is a bad puzzle, which is not fun. I don't understand the logic behind it. Sometimes it's okay to move the lower left rock. Other times, when you move the lower left rock, you instantly lose. I have tried copying other people's solutions, but they haven't worked. Maybe there's an element of randomness to it? Zigzagging seems to be the best solution. It usually takes me about 5 minutes of random guessing before I get it right. The puzzle is made even more annoying by the fact that you have to hear Dylan and Nancy explain the puzzle every time. Even more unpleasant is hearing Dylan howl in pain every time you fail. This puzzle does not have a second chance screen. The second chance screen is replaced with a mummy fact screen. That's not as much fun. While Nancy saves Dylan's life, he's still badly injured and rushed to the hospital. The game skips over the part where emergency crews visit the site, save Dylan, and excavate the room. That feels like a big thing to skip over. A bunch of people came to a newly opened part of the tomb, and Lily was supposed to leave on the next transport. Why didn't she? You can call Dylan at the hospital. Dylan's brain is scrambled, so he says strange things. Most of them are funny. It's mean of me to say so, but I think the traumatic injury made Dylan a more entertaining character. I like his new catchphrase. Fun fact, courtesy of Dylan. He says there's a secret compartment in Jamila's bag, which Nancy failed to notice when she searched it earlier. Annoyingly, Nancy can't follow up on this. If you talk to Jamila, the option to distract her has been taken away. I don't like this. When Search Jamila's Bag Again is added to your task list, the game takes away the ability to search Jamila's bag again, without any explanation as to why. Giving players an impossible task is just cruel. It makes no sense that you can distract Jamila at any time, except this one time you actually need to distract her. Nancy has to use oil and a lighter to start a lamp puzzle in the left tunnel. I prefer this one because you can see all the mirrors in this room. They're not hidden in the dark. You have 6 mirrors that you can place in any of the holes. Place mirrors and rotate them until the room's lit up. Good puzzle! The cat room has a mouse puzzle. There are 9 or 13 mice, depending on the gameplay mode. The hieroglyphs explain all the mice are the same weight, except one. Can you identify the light mouse if you only use the scales 3 times? This is also a good puzzle that I like. My strategy is to weigh all the mice except for 3. If the scales are balanced, the light mouse is one of the unweighed ones. If not, the light mouse is on the tray that's higher up. That narrows it down considerably. Repeat the process by dividing the smaller group to narrow it down to just 3 mice, so the final weighing gives you the solution. Solving the puzzle gives you a tablet with the name of the cat and hieroglyphics. I wish this was added to Nancy's journal or inventory, because she will need to check those specific hieroglyphs multiple times. There are also several pages from the Lost Expedition. I guess someone solved the mouse puzzle and hid the pages here for future generations to find? If I did that, I would have included the year as part of the dates. The cat room also has a cat mummy. Take the scarab off of it and use it on the wall of the coffin room for a snake slider puzzle. The papyrus in the coffin says what order the snake should be in. I don't like the snake puzzle that much. I always look up the solution. This puzzle opens a door. When you enter, you see a light emerge at the top of the screen, lightening up the entire room. I wonder why they didn't have this natural lighting in the previous rooms. Maybe they couldn't think of a third mirror puzzle for this area, so they decided not to bother with it. More importantly, the Queen's golden sarcophagus is visible on the other side of a tunnel. You have to spell out a name when crossing the steps. It's like the third Indiana Jones movie. The hieroglyphs say the path lies in destiny. You have to call Professor Hotchkiss for help. She says Destiny is the name of Nefertari's cat. I thought her cat's name was Garfield, so that is a big help. As I said, you get the cat's name by solving the mouse puzzle, spell out the 9-letter name on the stones. This makes a bridge, so you can reach the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus buttons are Senate symbols. As Nancy says, she can ask Lily about them. Lily tells you the proper names of all 5 symbols. The sarcophagus area connects to the middle tunnel, which is nice. On one side of the tunnel there is a staircase to the second floor of the main room. It is closed by a gate with a modern lock. I feel like this should be a big deal. Someone was in the tunnel recently and locked a path. But Nancy makes nothing of it. She can't talk to anybody about it. The third bird tile is next to the sarcophagus. Nancy uses the 3 bird tiles on the ceiling of the cat room. You have a puzzle to press 8 tiles in the proper order, following clues from the middle tunnel mural and the cat room's journal pages. This opens another pathway which connects to the middle tunnel. Lily has already been here. She left behind a gem from her sunglasses and half of her trunk puzzle. How was Lily here before Nancy? It was locked until 2 seconds ago. And don't tell me Lily used the other entrance, because that was securely locked too. Unless Nancy left for a 10-minute coffee break, there's no time Lily could have explored this tunnel. Nancy can tell Abdullah about the sarcophagus. He goes to see it, and he leaves behind the key to his trunk on the scaffolding. This is another example of how the triggers in this game don't make sense. He didn't leave the key the last time you distracted him. Why does he leave it this time? There's nothing to indicate finding the sarcophagus is necessary for getting Abdullah's key. Nancy can tell Lily about the sarcophagus. I find this conversation strange. Lily keeps saying, "We found the tomb. We're going to be famous," like she was there. Nancy responds with sarcasm, joking, "They'll have to change the Lost Queen's name, and the discovery will only matter to 6th graders." Why is Nancy being a jerk about this? You can get rid of Lily by saying Abdullah needs her. Funny how she won't leave her bed to see Nefertari's sarcophagus, but she will leave because the boss wants her. I'm surprised that distraction works. I would expect Abdullah to yell at Lily for bothering him, instantly exposing Nancy's lie. Lily might not be in the tent because of a cobra scene. There's a cobra on Nancy's bunk. Get rid of it by moving the trash can closer to the bed. Nancy has a long branch next to her bed for some reason. Use it on the cobra to stuff it in the trash can. I'm 90% sure this would not work in real life. Nancy puts the Cobra by the tent entrance, which is not a safe place. Someone's gonna knock it over by accident when flinging open the tent flaps. Nancy really should warn Lily and Abdullah about the agitated Cobra next to their sleeping quarters. When Lily's gone, Nancy can snoop freely. Lily has a book on curses. Abdullah's trunk has a letter from Sunny June, which says Jamila's not part of his alien group. There's also a letter which says Lily was almost kicked out of college for falsifying records. Lily is an expert in relics, meaning she lied earlier when she pretended she couldn't sort the amulets. Dylan guesses that Lily lied because she was feeling lazy, which sounds accurate to me. Now that Nancy's seen Sunny June's letter, she can confront Jamila. Jamila admits she's not a weirdo who believes in aliens. She only acted that way so no one would take her seriously. Sadly, this confession is not accompanied by a change in dialogue. She still talks like a weirdo. It's also sad that she gives half of a confession. She promises to tell the truth, then says, "The time is not right. Wait." That's so frustrating. What are you waiting for? You can finally search Jamila's bag again. Inside is a newspaper article about a speech Abdullah gave. Jamila wrote mean comments about him in the margins. I don't think this newspaper was worth an hour-long wait. Annoyingly, you have to wait about 5 minutes before Jamila reappears, and you can continue. Jamila accuses Abdullah of being a criminal who secretly sells artifacts and stages sites. She's right. If you double-check the empty coffin, you'll see Abdullah put a mummy inside. I think most players did not find this mummy on their own, though. At least I didn't. I had to be told about it. Jamila confesses she is part of a secret group called the Daughters of Nefertari. They have passed on information from mother to daughter for thousands of years, fulfilling an ancient quest to find Nefertari and put her sarcophagus next to her husband's. A lot of people dislike this story. It's incredibly far-fetched that this group has existed for so long, and it's weird that this is presented as a logical, viable alternative to aliens built the pyramids. Jamila gives Nancy half of Lily's trunk puzzle. I don't know why, there's no build-up to it. All that happens is Jamila says, "Here, take this." What does that have to do with the Daughters of Nefertari? Nothing. But you have to jump through all those hoops with Jamila to get that paper. Opening Lily's trunk is a puzzle. Every number on the board has to be in a separate colored section. Each section must be a square or a rectangle. I like this puzzle enough. I wish it appeared in other games. I think I've said that about most puzzles in this game. It is a good game for puzzles. Inside Lily's trunk is a page from John's notes, a book on snakes, and a card from a nearby reptile emporium. This suggests that she is the one who left the Cobra on Nancy's bunk. Lily tried to kill Nancy. That should be a huge deal. But it's not. You can't talk to Lily about it. You can't talk to anyone, actually, because when you back away, a sandstorm hits and all the characters disappear. Nancy can now open Nefertari's sarcophagus. You need to press the 5 symbols in the correct order, following the page in Lily's trunk and Lily's lecture on Senate symbols. The sarcophagus opens, revealing the mummy, which is both exciting and super gross. Lily arrives, hurling another, "What do you think you're doing?" accusation at Nancy. Nancy asks if Lily was following her, but Lily doesn't answer. It feels like part of this scene is missing, because next, Nancy accuses Lily of faking the curse. Lily says she wasn't trying to hurt Dylan, she just wanted him to leave. This makes no sense. When did she have time to booby-trap the tunnel? Dylan showed up immediately after the tunnel was opened for the first time. How did Lily know Dylan would arrive and insist on going before Nancy? Lily refuses to explain why she hurt Dylan, insisting there's nothing Nancy can do. The conversation is cut short by a sudden cave-in. Large rocks block both entrances to the room that Lily is in. If you try to talk to Lily some more, the only thing she says is, "I'm fine." I don't like this. My inquisitive mind wants a full explanation for all of Lily's actions. Instead, the only explanation we get is, "I'm not going to say." It's almost like the cave-in was an excuse to hide the fact that they couldn't think of a good reason why Lily tried to kill Nancy and Dylan. Getting little to no explanation of the culprit's motives and actions is a problem that reappears in games 29 and 30. It is implied that Abdullah was blackmailing Lily and he caused this recent cave-in to cover his tracks. Jamila says as much. That only leads to more questions. How did he cause a cave-in at that exact spot at that exact time? Did he know about Lily's confession in advance? Does he have every room in the pyramid rigged to explode? Jamila says she'll take care of Lily while Nancy exits the tomb and calls for help. Jamila gives you a key. Nancy asks, a key? Is there a second exit? Like she hasn't already seen the locked gate. I'd like to know how Jamila got the key. Presumably her mother left the lock on the gate during the Lost Expedition. Maybe she left a duplicate key at home? I just realized the introduction said that Lost Expedition was 60 years ago. I guess it was Jamila's grandmother, not her mother. Jamila also gives Nancy a paper which has half of the puzzle to the Order of Nefertari's secret exit. The other half is in her grandma's journal entry. Interestingly enough, the journal says Grandma could not find the secret exit, so maybe she didn't lock it. Grandma says she doesn't have the other half to the puzzle, so how did Jamila get it? Whatever, use the key on the gate and go up the stairs for the puzzle. On the wall is a rotating disc. You have to pick which godhead goes on which body 4 times in a row. I don't like this puzzle, most people don't. It's too confusing even when you know what to do. For example, the second clue says, you need to find the 4th. In this sentence, underneath a blazing sun, the jackal joins the mix of beasts that stand as one betwixt the sky and the underworld. What is 4th in that sentence? It's sky. The puzzle's probably much easier if you know the Egyptian gods well enough to say, dressed in red, that's Sekhmet! Or evening dew, clearly a reference to Tefnut. The Pantheon in Nancy's inventory has descriptions of 22 gods, which you have to scour for references. That's both too much to go through and still not enough, because the third answer is woman with a lion's head, but the puzzle has a yellow cat head and 2 green cat heads. I can't tell which one is a lion just by looking at them. I imagine most people cheat on this puzzle, or they guess until they get it right. Solving the puzzle leads to a new tunnel that looks suspiciously similar to the other tunnels. It leads to the final puzzle of the game. I have no idea where this puzzle takes place. Abdullah's hopping across a line of circle platforms to one exit. Nancy has to go across colored square platforms to a different exit. A bridge appears between 2 platforms if their colors match. The puzzle is to rotate platforms and form a pathway. Fortunately for Nancy, Abdullah waits for her to take a turn before he moves. He probably would have won if he had gone straight forward without stopping after every step. This puzzle's okay. It looks and feels like a variation on the end puzzle of Creature of Kapu Cave, only better. When you solve the puzzle, there's a scene of Nancy running out of the tomb through the main entrance. How did she get there? It was sealed off by the cave-in. Abdullah's waiting for Nancy. How did he get there? She reached the exit first, and besides, he went out a different exit. Abdullah raises his arm threateningly when John appears. How did he get there in the middle of a sandstorm? Oh, the staging of this scene makes no sense. John knocks Abdullah out with something that looks like a piece of wood. I'm not sure what it is. Nancy's ending letter says Abdullah was arrested. Abdullah thought Lily deserved a second chance, so he cleared her record by taking all the blame on himself. That's surprisingly nice of him. Lily quits archaeology, which is good because she's so scared of mummies and curses. You have to wonder why she chose the job in the first place. As for Dylan, he learned his lesson about dealing with the black market. I know many players were confused when Nancy says that in the ending, because they didn't know he was part of the black market to begin with. There's an optional phone call about it, but I forget how to trigger it. At least once I've tried to trigger it and failed. John and Jamila become friends when Jamila stops acting like an alien enthusiast. Professor Hotchkiss decides to update her book, and Nancy realizes she forgot to set the cobra loose, which is a good enough joke to end on. That's it for Tomb of the Lost Queen. I like the graphics and the new interface. The puzzles are good. The story and dialogue are weak. You probably picked up on that from my many complaints. I don't consider it a bottom tier game, but it was not a good start for a new chapter in the Nancy Drew series. Maybe the transition to a new interface and HD graphics was too intensive, so other aspects of this game slipped through the cracks. I give Nancy Drew number 26, Tomb of the Lost Queen, a 6 out of 10.